Hi, I'm Matt with etrailer, and today we're talking about the Flint Goods van ladder rack on top of our 2022 Chevrolet Express van. This is going to be a great option if you're using this as a work van and you need to put some longer things up there, anything from a ladder rack to lumber. So let's check it out. Our system is going to be made of a couple components today. We're going to have our outer and inner crossbar. We're going to have the bracket and then the hook on the very back of it. So let's take a look at that crossbar. This is going to be made of steel and it's going to have this white powder coat finish to it. So it's going to be very durable and weather resistant too. Now you'll notice that this outer one is thicker than the thinner one, and that might give you a different fit depending on what you're putting on here. And the reason that is because that inner one fits inside of this outer one, so it can adjust to larger sizes. And then we're going to have the bracket, and this bracket's also going to act as a load stopper because we're going to have this larger section up top, so if you have anything that's sliding around, this is going to stop your loads from shifting off. Then at the bottom, we're going to have our hook. And this hook is going to grab onto the back of the bracket and grab onto your rail to give you that secure fit. And something else about this bracket too is we're going to have multiple holes in this section right here that you can actually adjust how high this sits. So if you want this sitting up a little bit higher, you have that option. And a little bit more about that powder coat finish. It's going to be more of this off-white, which is okay. It doesn't match our van completely, but it's pretty close. And something I'm not a big fan of is this powder coat is really prone to coming off. When we got it today, it even had a couple chips already. So those areas where it's chipped at are going to be more prone to rusting, so definitely keep an eye on it. You'll notice we do have a pretty wide crossbar spread, and that's going to be for if you are hauling those longer items. Now, if you want this even longer, then what I would suggest is getting another set of these since they are very affordable, so you can put in the center so you don't get too much sag. This is also going to have a weight capacity up to 500 pounds, and I do think this steel is going to hold up to that. Now, whether the powder coat will hold up to that, I can't really say for sure. That'll just be something that time will tell. Just definitely, like I said earlier, keep an eye on it. And to going off of the weight capacity, always check what your roof is rated for. I would recommend finding out what that is in your owner's manual and then going from the lowest rated component. And now we can get some measurements. So the way your crossbars are going to sit are going to depend on what holes you're using on the side of the bracket. That's going to range from 6¼ inches to all the way up to 8½ inches. But the height of the brackets, where they sit, won't ever change because they're not adjustable. And that's going to sit at 13½ inches up top. Now for the space that we have underneath right now, I'm going to go from the thicker side, or the outer bars. That's going to be at about 3 inches. So do know that you will lose some if you do have that on the lowest hole. Overall, I think this is going to be a great value option for you if you're looking for something that's going to be great if you're using it in a work environment. You're just trying to haul those extra long ladders or that lumber on top of here, just taking them from point A to point B. Now we have had neighbors in the past actually double up on these so that you have 4 bars on top, almost making sort of a platform, and that's giving them a lot more security. They actually used it for a canoe, so it sits up there very flush. And honestly, going that route is probably going to be more affordable than stepping up into one of our more premium ladder racks or roof racks. As far as the installation goes, since it is such an affordable rack, there is a little bit of a process to it, but if you do need a hand, just stay tuned and we'll help you out with it. To start off the installation, we're going to lay everything out. So up front, we're going to have our 2 bars, and that's going to be our inner and outer bar. And next to that, we're going to have our 2 brackets right here. Then you're going to have the included hardware, which are going to be your M12 bolts, your flat washers, and your lock washers. You're going to need some tools. One of them is going to be our 3/16 Allen key. And you're going to need a socket and wrench, a size 18 and 13. I also recommend grabbing a size 13 wrench too, because some of those spots are pretty tight to get to. And in the background, you notice we do have a ladder. That's going to make this process a lot easier. You can do this with one person, but I really recommend grabbing 2 people so you can reach around and get to the other side too. But if you don't have a ladder, just make sure you have something so you can get elevated to access the top of your roof. Let me point out the bracket first. So in the instructions, it tells you how to put this together. In our case, this was already put together. So if yours isn't, let me show you how to do it. So basically, you're going to have this M8 bolt, and it's going to be a longer one too. You're just going to push that through the bracket and your hook attachment. You'll have a lock washer and a flat washer that go underneath that too. You notice we have 2 more bolts, and if I flip that over, those are going to grab on to these locking nuts. And underneath those locking nuts, we're going to have flat washers. And finally, we'll have this rubber piece that'll just grab onto the end of your bracket. With that out of the way, we can start talking about how to put a bar together. It's pretty straightforward. All we have to do is grab that inner piece and just slide it in to our outer piece. Now if this happens and it grabs on, we'll have to loosen this bolt that's in here. The way we do that is I'll just put this inner bar to the side, grab that 3/16 Allen key, loosen this up some. With this loosened up, it'll be out of the way so that I can slide that bar through. And we're just going to roughly place it here because we don't know how far it needs to be extended. Next up, I'm going to grab that bracket. I want to make sure that this bracket and hook is facing out. And I'm going to line up our M12 bolt through one of these holes. Any one of you choosing, that's just going to depend on how high you want your bars to sit. I'm going to go with for this 1 second from the top. So, we prep that. I'm just going to grab that M12 bolt, put the lock washer on there, and then the flat washer. Push it through our bracket and bring it over to the end of our bars and just hand thread it in. Once this process is completed, you can do that on the other side. This is where the ladder is going to come in handy, and a friend too. Today we got Aiden helping us out. And before you get it up here, I recommend making sure everything's loose, even the clamps, so they're a lot easier to get over there. And we're using a towel today so we don't scratch up our roof. So what I'm going to do is extend this other tower, keeping the base near me, and pushing it out until he can reach. And we're just going to roughly place it on our rails and then adjust afterwards. You'll probably notice we already have our front crossbar on here. Putting them both on is going to be the same process. And now we need to get our measurements to make sure each side's even. If you were to get your front ones on, you can use them as a guidepost. So what I like to do is measure from one spot that I know that's going to be the same on each side to the other. And then after when I get that measurement, I want to check the other side to make sure it's even. And if it's not even, I'm just going to adjust it just by either pulling this way towards the front or towards the back. We can start securing things down. So where I'm going to start is on the bar itself, tightening down the set screw we have at the top, just with that 3/16 Allen key. I like to grab onto the bar too, so it doesn't spin around. Then once you have this tight, we can move on. We're going to come over to this M12 bolt that's securing your bracket to your bar. And we're going to grab that 18 socket. And when you tighten this down, I recommend grabbing the bar so it doesn't spin on you. Once you have this all the way tightened on the side, you just repeat that process for the other. We've tightened everything up on the other side. Now we're going to come back here and tighten up this M8 bolt up top. Once this is all the way secured, what this is doing is applying pressure from the clamp to the bottom of your side rails. And once we have it all the way secured, we can move over to the front, to right here, where we can tighten down these lock nuts. Our last step is just going to be giving this a good shake test, making sure this feels secured, and if it does, then you can load it up with whatever you have and then go take it on the road. But that's just a look at the installation and some of the features of the Flint Whole Goods van ladder rack on top of our 2022 Chevrolet Express van.